Hello, this is Rabbi Maurice Harris, and in this video we're going to take a closer look at how to do section 1 of the 5-part Dvar Torah. And section 1 is the one in which you will talk about where your Torah portion fits within the Torah as a whole. Where does it fit within the epic Torah story? When you start your Dvar Torah, you want to welcome everyone, most likely with a Shabbat Shalom, and you want to tell them what the name of your parasha is in Hebrew and what that translates to in English. And then you're going to go on to do section 1, telling us where your parasha roughly fits within the big picture of the Torah as a whole. Tell us which of the 5 books of the Torah that it's in. And give everybody a sense of what's going on in the Torah's grand story when your parasha takes place. A good way to do this is to let everybody know about any really famous moments in the Torah that happen just before or just after your Torah portion, like the splitting of the Red Sea or Noah's Ark. These are things that even people who aren't experts on the Torah tend to know about, and it will help orient them to where your parasha fits in the grand scheme of the Torah as a whole. Also, without giving a summary of your Torah portion, because that's in the next section, it is a good idea at this point to tell everybody whether your Torah portion is made up mostly of stories or of laws, or if it's a mix. So again, the idea is a very basic orienting of people to where your Torah portion fits within the grand story of the Torah as a whole, and to do it without taking a whole lot of time. If you need resources to help give you a general sketch of the grand story of the Torah as a whole, here are a couple of websites that I highly recommend. They have terrific summaries of each of the 5 books of the Torah and of each of the Torah portions. The summaries are brief and clear and accessible, and I highly recommend them. Let me give you an example of what this might look like for the Torah portion known as Mishpatim, which is found in the book of Exodus. And in fact, I'll give you 2 examples. I will give you one written at about a 6th to 7th grade level that might be helpful for bar and bat mitzvah students. And then in the next slide, I'll give an example of something written at a more adult level. So here we go. Section 1 of the 5-step Dvar Torah for Mishpatim. Shabbat Shalom. My Torah portion, or parasha in Hebrew, is called Mishpatim, which means statutes or certain kinds of laws. It takes place about halfway through the book of Exodus, which is the second of the 5 books of the Torah. Exodus is famous for telling the story of the Hebrews being slaves to Pharaoh in Egypt, and God sending Moses to liberate them. Everyone usually remembers things from Exodus like the burning bush, the 10 plagues, and the splitting of the Red Sea when the Hebrews finally go free into the wilderness. And of course, Exodus is where the giving of the 10 commandments takes place. Mishpatim takes place after all those things have happened, kind of around the beginning of the 40 years of wandering in the wilderness that the Hebrews are going to do before they finally make it to the border of the Promised Land. Mishpatim is one of those Torah portions that is pretty much a long list of different laws that the Israelites were commanded by God to follow. It's a different list than the laws of the 10 Commandments. It deals with more of the details of daily life. Okay, so you can see in that example, which took me about a minute and a half to read through, that at a 6th or 7th grade level, I've gone ahead and told people what the name of the Torah portion is, what that name means, which book of the Torah it's in. a couple of key events that take place in the great Torah story just before this Torah portion, which is going to help a lot of folks listening get oriented to where this Torah portion fits in to the grand picture of the Torah. And then I shared a detail announcing that this happens to be a Torah portion that's made up mostly of laws and that they're kind of detailed. Now I'd like to offer an example of step 1 of a Dvar Torah on the parasha called Mishpatim, written at an adult level. And this slide is intended to help grown-ups who have signed up to offer a Dvar Torah. So here we go. Shabbat Shalom. We've arrived at an important milestone in the Torah this week, though it's not as memorable as the thunder and smoke of the giving of the Ten Commandments, which we heard about last Shabbat. Our ancestors, the Hebrews, are still freshly liberated from bondage in Egypt, having made their way to the mountain of God in the wilderness, Mount Sinai. With the drama of the receiving of the Ten Commandments behind them, the Torah turns its attention to the delivery of a new group of laws that are more detail-oriented than the Big Ten. Our parasha this week is called Mishpatim, which in fact means statutes, ordinances, or certain kinds of civil laws. Mishpatim presents the Israelites with a series of laws that many in today's legal field would call torts. Here in the U.S., we have laws that say what happens if person A's rider lawnmower spins out of control and mows down person B's flower bed. Some kind of compensation will be mandated. If person A's mower does this repeatedly, then we're talking about a pattern of negligence, and there may be further penalties involved. Well, things weren't that different back then. In Mishpatim, we learn about what happens when person A's ox gets loose and gores person B's ox, and so on. Okay, so there you have an example of the same structure. I greeted everyone. I let people know that this Torah portion is taking place in the same part of the Torah as the giving of the Ten Commandments. I'm not sure that I explicitly mentioned the book of Exodus, but that's okay. There's enough orienting information in this particular example to help people who even have a very surface familiarity with the story of the Torah get oriented to what's going on in the big picture. I also gave people a little bit of a sense of what is in the Torah portion, that we've got laws that deal with torts or damages, compensation, that sort of thing. And I've set myself up so that I can now go on and offer a somewhat more detailed summary of the contents of Mishpatim in the next step. Here are some tips that can help make the first section of your Dvar Torah really excellent. The first thing is, it's really important to welcome everyone at the very beginning of your Dvar. So not only does that mean saying Shabbat Shalom, but it means using a tone of voice and expressions that are warm and welcoming and show some enthusiasm and give everybody a sense that you're inviting them to join you on this journey. Remember, this first section of your Dvar Torah should be brief. You just want to use it to orient your audience to where we are in the Torah's big picture. And though you're going to tell them just a teeny bit about what the contents of your Torah portion are, don't give a full summary of your Torah portion in this section. That's for the next section. A little bit more advanced tip would be to include a touch of humor, if that's something that comes naturally to you, and to do other things with your language and your expressions to connect warmly with your audience. Okay, that does it for this section. You can proceed on, if you like, to the next video that will detail how you can work with the second section of the 5-part Dvar Torah. Take care. Shalom.